Hey everyone, and welcome into this Monday edition of Cronkite Sports Now. I'm Brady Klein. We have plenty to get to today, including an interview with former Bulls Center Joe Kleine as we talk about the highly anticipated debut of the Chicago Bulls documentary, The Last Dance. But we start today by bringing you the sad news that legendary ASU baseball coach Bobby Winkles passed away last Friday at the age of 90. Winkles was the first head coach of ASU baseball and helped lead the Sun Devils to 3 national championships, winning them in 1965, 67, and 69. Winkles was also 2-time NCAA Coach of the Year and guided some ASU greats such as Rick Monday and Reggie Jackson. On Friday, the WNBA held its annual draft. The Phoenix Mercury selected Virginia forward Jocelyn Willoughby with the 10th overall pick and then traded her rights to New York for guard Shatari Walker-Kimbrough, who last season played with the champion Washington Mystics. The Mercury's other draft picks included Baylor guard Taya Cooper and Rider guard Stella Johnson.
We've always liked Walker-Kimbrough. She shoots the ball really well, can score off the dribble, just a really athletic, someone that we thought could come in and play and compete on our team right away.
You know, Jim and I always have very similar ideas about the kind of players that we need. We needed more playmaking. We got that. Obviously, we've got a lot more depth. It's going to be a very competitive camp. We're way more aggressive on defense. You got 3-point shooting. You got playmaking ability. So just excited about just getting onto the floor and getting this season started whenever, we're able to.
Last season, Cooper was a finalist for the Nancy Lieberman Award, which goes to the best collegiate women's point guard after averaging 13.6 points and 4.6 assists per game. Johnson was the NCAA's leading scorer last season, totaling 745 points while averaging 24.8 points per game. We're now joined by former Phoenix Sun Olympic gold medalist and 1998 Chicago Bulls NBA champion, Mr. Joe Kleine. Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So let's just get right into this. Last night, obviously, the big premiere of The Last Dance, and as a player on that 98 team, what was your reaction to last night's first 2 episodes?
I thought they nailed it, hit a home run. I mean, I thought they did a great job of showing the rift or tension between management and Phil and Scotty and Michael. I had forgotten, I knew it was there, but I had forgotten how real it was. I mean, there was a real tension there. And then I thought they did a really good job of showing how badly Scottie Pippen was missed early in the year. I mean, I remember him being hurt. I didn't remember him missing that many games, and I did not remember us struggling like we struggled without him. And that was kind of a refresher for me. But I thought they were, spot on with everything they did.
You spent only 1 year with the Bulls, but what else sort of stood out from this documentary from your time not with the Bulls that you saw when you showed up to the organization in the 97 season?
Well, you think you're going into Shangri-La. I mean, 5 championships, would have had probably 7 or 8 with if Michael hadn't played baseball. And so you heard about the tension on the outside, but it was normal contract money stuff that you hear every day in every professional sport. But when you got in there, you saw how personal and deep-rooted a lot of these things were between management and Phil and management and Scotty and Michael. And it was a real eye-opener from coming in from the outside.
Is that what stood out to you most in your 1 year there in Chicago?
I was a very small part of a really great thing, but still it was a great thing. And I mean, it was like being with the Beatles or the Jackson 5 or the Rolling Stones. I mean, it was, and I had played with some really good teams in Phoenix that had Charles and Dan, and Kevin Johnson had some good personalities, the Celtics. So I'd been around a little bit of that stuff, but nothing like that. That was ridiculous. It was a rock concert. It was a traveling. It was, like I said, it was like being part of the Rolling Stones. It was crazy.
How would you exactly describe the sort of rock star atmosphere that you were thrown into?
Well, I mean, when you're watching Michael and Scotty and Phil, I mean, every town we went to, regardless of what time we flew in, regardless of the weather, there were barricades set up for the bus, and people would be there 3:00 in the morning in Milwaukee in January trying to get a picture of Michael walking from the bus to the hotel lobby.
Was there one thing in specific that made him so special?
It's competitiveness. I mean, if you beat him in something, I mean, he put the time in. He was a consummate professional, on time. First guy there, last one to leave, and just expected greatness from himself, but he also expected great effort from everybody he played with.
Now, you were teammates with Michael twice, 15 years apart, once in the 84 Olympics, then the 98 Bulls. In 1984, could you see that he had it, or could you see what was to become of Michael Jordan?
No, nobody saw. No, anybody who says they saw that's full of it.
Dennis Rodman took a 2-day trip to Vegas in the middle of the year. What was your thought on that, and what was your experience with Rodman?
I was low man on the totem pole, so if Dennis wanted to go to Vegas, I wouldn't go speak up, because they might have. If I would have speaked up in protest, they might have sent me with him and told Dennis to come back by himself. So I left that one alone. But I'll say this: I was kind of baffled early on when I first got there that when we would have a day off, we really wouldn't have a day off. We would come in and we would watch film for a half hour, and it was useless. I mean, it was, for a veteran team like we had, I'm like, why are we coming in like this? Why don't we just have the day off? And so, after about 6 weeks or 2 months, I looked at Bill Whittington or Steve Kerr, and I'm like, all right, man, what are we doing? I mean, and they go, Phil's not going to give us a full day off, because if we played the night before on a Tuesday and Phil walked into the locker room and said, see you guys Thursday at 10 a.m., Rodman was going to charter a private jet and go to Vegas and come back Thursday morning. So, so we, he was always looking for a way to get to Vegas. And so a lot of it was, just trying to, keep him. But I'm, the fact that he was able to go there for 2 days and they got him back in 48 hours, I think that's amazing.
Thank you so much for taking the time out today. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on this series, and I look forward to watching the rest of it, along with, I'm guessing, the rest of the country in this very trying time here in the U.S. and the world as a whole.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Have a good day.
We're now joined by Cronkite News and Cronkite Sports reporter Rob Warner to take us into today's Arizona Sports Rewind. Now, Rob, you take us all the way back to 1976 to the Western Conference semifinals with the Phoenix Suns. What was that game like, and what was the series like?
Well, it was really an amazing game. The Suns won 130-114. They took a 3-1 series lead against a really talented Seattle Supersonics team starring Fred Downtown Brown. And what was crazy was I talked to Al McCoy, the Suns broadcaster that's been with the team for a number of years, had a retirement ceremony just a couple years ago. And he actually told me in that game, you hear about the number, the high-scoring affair, and he actually told me the Suns' defense, what stood out in that game. He said even though it was so high-scoring, the Suns were able to sort of limit Seattle to be more of a half-court offense in that game. He said they loved to get out in transition, loved to get out with fast break opportunities, but the Suns, led by Paul Westphal, who had 39 points in that game, really were able to play well defensively, and he thought that was the key in the game.
You know what they say, Rob, defense wins championships, and the Suns at that point would go on, and you said, knock off the reigning NBA champion Golden State Warriors. Right. Going on past that series, the Western Conference semis, what was the Suns' path in the 76 playoffs?
Well, it was really interesting because beating that Seattle team definitely wasn't a given for how talented they were. But the Suns really had a great year that year. They made some moves that really stood out. Getting Paul Westphal that offseason from Boston, and then John McCoy, the coach, ends up drafting his player Alvin Adams, who goes on to win Rookie of the Year. The Suns had really just a magical year. And there was a book actually written about that team that said the team that thought they could and almost did, they go on to beat the Warriors in a 7-game series, which started a double overtime game, and then lose to a really talented Boston Celtics team. But I think that was sort of the team that started to get the attention for Phoenix fans. And Al McCoy said it just electrified the entire valley and made everybody interested in what was going on with the organization.
I bet Al McCoy's got some great stories from the Suns through the years, and this obviously being a special one. And like you said, Rob, defense was the key in that game. Even though it was 130 to 114, you don't really think of defense being the big one there, huh?
No, definitely. But it was a factor in that series, and McCoy said that McLeod was such a good coach that he could work on so many different phases, and that in that series the offense was just absurd. And going into that game 4, he made a change and said to his team, we need to press and we need to make sure that they're in a half-court set as much as possible. They were able to do that. They were able to go on to their first NBA Finals. The franchise still hasn't won an NBA championship, but that sort of paved the way for many more great teams that came and got to that same level. Most
definitely a turning point for the Suns organization. Rob, thank you very much. We look forward to reading the rest of your story. Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of Cronkite Sports Now. Be sure to tune in every day the rest of this week to catch the latest and greatest in Arizona sports. And for more sports stories from around the valley, visit the Cronkite Sports tab on arizonasports.com.